Well, this is certainly not the kind of update that anybody wanted to hear me record today, and certainly I didn't want to record. But Adam Schefter at ESPN reports that Nick Bosa did, in fact, sustain an ACL injury, a torn ACL that will require season-ending surgery from him. So his 2025 season is over. This is the third time that Nick Bosa has sustained a torn ACL, right knee, while in high school at St. Thomas Aquinas High in Fort Lauderdale, and then his second season in the NFL, it was the left knee, and here we go, the right knee. And this comes as a little bit of a surprise because it sure sounded like the 49ers were thinking that he avoided the dreaded ACL injury after the initial diagnosis. But I'm just thinking probably with Nick Bosa's body composition, sometimes it's really difficult to tell exactly what that injury is because he is just so strong in his lower body. But Adam Schefter reporting that that the 49ers have their worst fears realized by Nick Bosa sustaining that injury. So I did record an update earlier in the day that certainly strongly suggested that it wasn't an ACL, but the news comes back that, and Kyle Shanahan did say, in fairness to him, he did say after the game that they could not rule out anything. They could not rule out ACL, even though it seemed as if it wasn't. But I just kind of go back to that visual of Nick Bosa going into the blue medical tent, looking up at his family and giving the thumbs down, which right then was a clear indication of the severity of that injury, and something that this is a guy that knows his body very well, and he's a workout maniac. And I mean, just look and see how he's done through the years as far as just staying up to date with his body and the workouts, and to sustain this ACL injury, such a significant blow for him and his career, because with 2 sacks in 2 games, he was looking like the 2023 Nick Bosa, the guy who won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And just watching him during the offseason program, watching him during training camp, he looked to be on that trajectory once again. And as a leader on this team, Kyle Shanahan, I think, made it known to him that he'd like for him to be there for the offseason program, knowing that there were going to be so many young players, so many rookies, so many guys who could really learn a lot from Nick and take advantage of his knowledge, his kind of his savant nature of the way he studies the game, the way he sees the game, the way he uses pass rush moves, one move to set up another, all those things that young guys can really learn from Bosa. And so he was there for the offseason program, and he was there during training camp. And now I'm sure he'll still be around, but he won't be able to offer the impact that he has offered the 49ers since he arrived on the scene as the number 2 overall pick out of Ohio State in 2019. So, back to what I was talking about in the earlier video that I recorded, it's going to take 8 guys to replace Nick Bosa. You just don't lose a player of his status, of his ilk, and not feel the effects. And I do think it's very similar to a year ago when the Detroit Lions lost Aiden Hutchinson so early in the season. And early on, it didn't have that much of an impact for them because they were able to still win a lot of football games. They were able to still get the number 1 seed in the NFC. However, you saw just kind of the impact that not having Aiden Hutchinson had on that team, because even though they were the number 1 seed, they were leaking oil at the end of the season, and it became very difficult for them to stop opposing offenses without Hutchinson. So can the 49ers, can they keep it moving? Can they be a playoff team without Nick Bosa? Yeah, I think they can. Getting off to the 3-0 start certainly helps. A weaker schedule based on their 4th place finish last year in the NFC West, that certainly helps. But it's going to be extraordinarily difficult without a guy that ranks right up there with Fred Warner as the most important player on this defense. And maybe even, boy, it's tough to say who's more important to this defense, Fred Warner or Nick Bosa, because Bosa has that element where you looked at him and you go, even if they're 100% healthy and Bosa's out there, you're wondering, okay, who other than Bosa is going to be able to step up and help the 49ers defense, help that young secondary, put pressure on the quarterback, force bad throws, hit quarterbacks as they're throwing, generate those takeaways, force the quarterbacks into bad decisions, throwing into coverage. Now, the 49ers really have to do a better job on the back end of going to get the football. And they haven't had an interception so far this season. And, they remember how they ended last season too, where they just couldn't buy a takeaway. They're going to need a lot of guys to step up. And I would say through this point where the 49ers are in the season, those rookies have played very well. They're getting a lot out of Michael Williams. He's shown to be very worthy of the number 11 overall pick. Alfred Collins has really stepped it up a notch, and he's played well here and getting increasingly better as we go along. And CJ West has shown a lot of bright spots as well. But when you talk about those 8 players on defense, who they look to, it's Michael Williams, it's Bryce Huff, it's Sam Okawanu, it's Jordan Elliott, it's Kalia Davis, it's Alfred Collins, it's Yetur Gross-Matos, it's CJ West. So Yetur Gross-Matos is a guy that, I'm not sure he's the outside pass rush threat. I think he's better rushing the passer from the inside. But Sam Okawanu is going to get a lot of playing time. And this is a guy that's relatively new to football. So, he's going to have to really step up. And I could say probably right now, when you look at their outside pass rushers, Okawanu and Bryce Huff are the 49ers' best 2 guys to replace Nick Bosa on the outside as far as lining up and having the juice to beat an offensive tackle around the edge while also showing a little bit of ability to use the bull rush and other things. So what do the 49ers do now? Do they look to the trade market? I mean, let's face it, all the best players are taken. So there's not anybody out there that can help the team from that standpoint. But when you look at what they might be able to do, I think they'll keep a close eye on the teams that are out of it, that fall out of contention, and maybe they swing a trade. I'm sure what you'll hear from Kyle Shanahan, and you'll hear it from John Lynch, and you'll hear it repeatedly. It's that they will never close the door on adding a good player. They're always looking to add good players. And then also, on top of that, they don't want to do anything now that hurts them down the road, whether that's paying big money for a guy like Trey Hendrickson or whatever the draft pick compensation might be in order to acquire somebody like that. They don't want to. I mean, let's just remember how they started the offseason program, or the entire offseason, where they stripped away a lot of their veteran guys for salary cap purposes to help them down the road. And so in order for them to make a move closer to the trading deadline, I think they'd have to, the guys on the defensive line now would have to prove that there's enough there in order to warrant the 49ers going out and getting somebody else. They did it back in 2023 when they felt like Chase Young could be the guy that kind of tips the scale in their favor. And they got him. That was considered a big move at the time. He was a little bit up and down when the 49ers got him, but I don't necessarily feel like it's, something the 49ers will definitely look into, adding a player on the trade market from a team that maybe falls out of contention. But we're talking about defensive end. We're talking about pass rushers. There's going to be a lot of teams out there who will be looking to capitalize if there's one of those players who becomes available. And for the 49ers, this is a big blow for them. They have to be able to win games, string wins together in order to even put themselves in a position where they can feel like it behooves them to go out and get somebody like that, a big time pass rusher who can fit into what they already have. So once again, Nick Bosa, as reported by Adam Schefter, out for the season with a torn ACL. A big blow to Nick Bosa. Feel horrible for him. The 49ers are left scrambling as far as what they're going to do, but I got to believe that they have to feel like the answers are in the building, and that they'll have to carry on with the guys they have. A lot more on Robert Saleh's plate to make all the pieces fit together, as they're going to have to scheme things up. They're going to have to do a lot of things different defensively because they don't have that one guy who can just line up and go get the quarterback. Bryce Huff could be that guy. He just has to show the consistency. And so far, he's gotten off to a good start this season, but He's got to bring it every game now. There's no kind of slipping underneath the radar and hoping that he can just add something to complement Nick Bosa. He has to be that guy now who takes over and becomes the third down guy, the closer, like he was week 2 against the New Orleans Saints. So there's where the 49ers are, a significant blow to their hopes for the season, losing Nick Bosa for the season with a torn ACL.